A quick reminder to all coders, because this is our 10th lesson in a series, I do want to remind you that you do need to make sure that you have watched all the lessons prior to this from the beginning to the end, because if you have not, that will be very detrimental to your overall knowledge of Python, particularly considering that what we're learning right now is fundamental to your education, because of course these are the fundamentals. So do make sure that you have watched all the lessons prior to this, and if you have, let's begin. Hello resourceful coders, my name is Shawn and I will be your instructor today. You're watching lesson 10 of the Python for Beginners series on the Coding with Shawn channel. In this lesson, we will learn how to work with files. More specifically, we'll learn how to open and read text files. We'll learn how to use a for loop to read text files. We'll learn how to write to a text file. We'll learn how to open and read text files by their buffer size. We'll learn how to open, read, and write into binary files. And of course, we'll learn how to delete and rename those files. Now, before we do get started, I just have one major announcement, which is just the way that we moved from level 1 to level 2 in lessons 4 and 5 of the series. We're going to be moving from level 2 to 3 in this lesson of the Python for Beginners series. So congratulations, go ahead and give yourself a pat on the back. If you've done that, let's begin. So in some of our previous lessons, we learned how to get input from users using the input function. So this is a very, very, very good way to get information most of the time, but it can be a little impractical when working with large amounts of data. So when you are working with large amounts of data, a more convenient way to prepare the needed information is as an external file. And we're going to get our programs to read the information from the external file. So in this lesson, that is going to be our main focus. So if you're ready, let's get started. The first type of file we're going to read from is going to be just a simple text file with a few lines of text. So to do that, we first need to create a text file. So if you are on Windows, I'm going to go ahead and give a disclaimer. If you are on Windows, then this does not apply to you. So what I'm doing right now only applies to macOS and Linux users. So if you're on Windows, go ahead and find the timestamp in the description for your section, or just skip ahead a little bit using the scrubbing bar. Now, if you are on macOS or Linux, though, this is your section, so pay attention. So if you're on macOS or Linux, go ahead and click File, which is going to be right here in PyCharm, and then click New, and then just click File. And I want you to name this file myfile.txt. Now this .txt is the most common extension used for text files, and that's what we're going to be using today. So go ahead and click Enter, and that'll create the file. And then I need you to write 4 lines of text. So you can write whatever you want, but I'm going to go ahead and write this. Coding with Shawn is a great source of education for anyone, anywhere, wanting to learn how to code. And you can write whatever you want, but that's what I'm going to write because that's a good description of this channel. And go ahead and click File now if you've written what you needed to write, and then click Save As. And then by default, it's going to give you the Hello World directory. And if it does this, I want you to change this. And you can change it by clicking the 3 dots right here. And then make sure your desktop is the one that's selected. And if it is, you can go ahead and click Open or Select, depending on what your computer says. It'll say something over here or on the top right. And you can click Open. And then OK. OK, and now you can see that there has been 2 there's been 2 myfile text files created. There's one that's created on the desktop and one on the Hello World directory. So as not to cause confusion, we're going to want to delete the Hello World directory file. So to do this, you can go ahead and right click on the Hello World file and then click Reveal in Finder or Reveal in File Explorer, depending on what your computer is. Again, Linux and Mac, it does differ a little bit. And then it'll go ahead and highlight where it is, and you're going to want to go ahead and move it to the trash because we don't want to cause any confusion here. And once you've done that, it'll go away by itself if you click on it. And then now we have the myfile.txt that's on the desktop and the desktop only. And that's good, but now we have to create another file. So go click File again, and then click New, and then click Python file this time. Not file, but Python file. So I click on Python file, and I want you to name this file file operation.py. Now the .py extension, of course, is the official extension for any Python file. And once you've created that, we have to make sure that we do also cover our Windows users. So if you are on macOS or Linux, you can feel free to skip ahead a little bit, or I would also recommend that you actually just go ahead and watch the section, because it can be helpful for you to know how to do these types of things on Windows, Mac, and Linux. And so whether you're on Mac, Linux, or Windows, I would recommend you still do watch this next section where I teach how to do exactly what we just did on Windows, just so that you know it for the future. But again, it's your choice, but yeah, here you go, Windows users. Hello, Windows users. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do exactly what we just did on the macOS and Linux devices. So go ahead and come over here to where it says File, and then go ahead and click New, and then click on File, which is right here. And I want you to name the file myfile.txt. And if you're wondering what txt is, I'm sure you already know, but just so you know, .txt is the most widely used extension for any text file. So here I want you to just type 4 lines of, well, I was about to say code, but it's not code, just 4 lines of, well, regular text. So go ahead and type, Coding with Shawn is a great source of education for anyone, anywhere, wanting to learn how to code. And you don't have to type this exactly, but I do want to make sure that you at least have written 4 lines. If you want to write more, you can write more, but at least 4 lines. So once you've done that, I want you to come over here to File again, and I want you to click Save As. Okay, so by default, it's going to show as in the Hello World directory, and you want to get this to the desktop. And to do that, you're going to click these 3 dots right here, and then I want you to click wherever it says desktop. So in my case, I'm going to go down to my user, and then right here I'm going to click on my desktop. So it might not be as complicated on your computer, but because I have so many paths and directories here, it is going to be a little complicated for me. But it won't be as complicated for you. Just find your desktop and then click OK. Then go ahead and click Refactor. Okay, so what you're going to see now is that you have a myfile.txt on your desktop, and you have one over here that's in your Hello World directory. So you do want to keep the one that's on your desktop, but you want to get rid of the one that's in your Hello World directory, because we don't want to get confused because of there being 2 myfile.txts. So go ahead and right click on here, and then I want you to click Show in Explorer. And then it might take a second or two to load, and then here you can see where it is, and I want you to right click here and just go ahead and delete it, because we do not need that right here anymore, because we have our myfile.txt on our desktop. Then I need to create another file. So this time click New, but instead of clicking File, I want you to click Python file. And name this one File Operation.py. And by default, this will also be on your desktop. So I'm not going to write anything, because what we're going to write here, I'm going to teach you on macOS, because it's going to be pretty much the same thing there. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer it over to macOS. Now we have to write a few more lines. So go ahead and write F equals open, and then parentheses, a quote, or rather a pair of quotes, and then inside it myfile.txt, and then a comma after it, and then another pair of quotes, and inside it R. Then you can skip a line as not to cause confusion, and write first line equals f.readline, and then a pair of parentheses, and then you can go ahead and move to the next line and type second line equals f.readline, and then another pair of parentheses, and then you can put print first line, and next you can type print second line. And once you've written that, you are almost done. You just need to skip a line again and type f.close, and then a pair of parentheses. And that is all you need to write. So if this has not by default already saved to your desktop, you can go ahead and click File, Save As, and then the three dots, and make sure that it is already, in fact, in the desktop. Now I've already done this, but so I don't want to recopy it, because that'll cause more confusion, and I don't want to cause more of a confusion. So now comes the magic part. So now they are in file operation.py. You can go ahead and click X on the myfile.txt if that's still open. And now is the magic part, of course. So go ahead and run the program. And if you do, you get Coding with Shawn is a great source of education. And it's just like magic, guys. That came from our text file automatically just by running this program. And this may be a little confusing, so let me explain what's going on here. So the first line of code here, which is f equals open myfile.txt, r, that opens the file. So obviously before you can read any file, you have to open it. Sort of like you have to open YouTube before you can open my channel, or like you have to open my channel before you can open a video. And the open function is what does that, and it requires two parameters. The first parameter is the path to the actual file. So if you didn't save file operation.py and myfile.txt in the same file, which in this case is your desktop, you'd actually need to specify what path you stored the text file. So if you saved it in a folder named Python in your C drive, you would have to write something around the lines of C. I'm going to go ahead and put a comment just so that it does not cause any confusion. And you'd have to type something around the borders of C, and then a colon, and then 2 backslashes, and then Python, and then 2 more backslashes, and then myfile.txt. And of course, it's a lot easier to just store it in the same folder, which of course that does minimize confusion, and it uses less effort, so that's obviously very, very useful. And the second parameter here is the mode. So this is specifying how the file is going to be used. The most commonly used modes are the R mode, and this is for, I'm actually going to go ahead and put the 3 quotes. So the first is, of course, the R mode, and this is for reading only. The next mode is the W mode, and this is for writing only. So if the specified file does not exist, it will be created. And if the specified file exists, any data written to the file is automatically added to the end. Okay. And then the last mode is the R plus mode, and that is for both reading and writing. So in this case, we of course use the R mode, which is right here, and that was for reading only. And because of course we cannot edit this, right? Because if we do try to edit it, it's not going to edit. And besides, even if there was a way to do this, we wouldn't actually see any changes in the text file itself. So after opening the file, the next statement here, which is first line equals f.readLine, reads the first line in the file and assigns it to the variable first line, which is this right here and this right here. And each time this readLine function is called, it reads a new line from the file. So in our program, the readLine function was called twice, here and here. Hence, the first 2 lines are read, which are, of course, Coding with Shawn is a great source of education. And when you run the program, of course, we are going to get only these first two lines because we have only told Python and Python interpreter to give us the first two lines. So you will notice that right here, there is a line break inserted, which is, of course, going to be after each line, but we only have two lines, so we only see one line break. And this is because the read line function adds the escape. If you remember when we were learning escape characters, it adds the escape n character, which of course makes you go down one line. And if you would not want the extra line between each line of text, you would do something like print and then first line and then a comma and then end equals and then two quotes. And that would be pretty much the only way that you could, or rather not two quotes, but something around the borders of that. And that would be pretty much the only way you could avoid doing the extra line in between each line. So after reading and printing the two lines, the last sentence, which is f.close, closes the file. You should always close the file once you finish reading it. That way it doesn't take up any system resources. So in this case, our text file is a very small amount, and if we want to figure out, we can come to myfile.txt and click .getinfo. And look, it's only 99 bytes, and in this case it's 4 kilobytes on the disk, but it's pretty much nothing. This is very small amount for our modern computers to process. But if you have files that are gigabytes, even terabytes and petabytes, of course, if you just leave them open, your computer's probably going to have a pretty big problem with them. And so to avoid it, you always want to have the file closed afterwards so that your system resources are not taken up. Now what I've written right here, from here to here, is very, very important for you to know. So if you want to go ahead and pause the video and write this down, or if you want to just take a screenshot of it, I would highly recommend that because this is very, very important. Okay, so that is pretty much it for simply opening and reading text files. So now we're going to learn how to use a for loop to read text files. In addition to using the readline method that we just used to read a text file, we can also use a for loop. Matter of fact, the for loop is actually more elegant and efficient when we're trying to read text files. So let's write a program to show how it's done. You can go ahead and X out the myfile.txt file if you haven't already, which you should have done a long time ago, but if you haven't, you can go ahead and X that out. And you can also clear the file operation.py file. And we're going to go ahead and write in that. So write f equals open, and then a pair of parentheses, and quotes, and inside it myfile.txt, then a comma, and then r. And then we're going to write the for loop now. So for line in f, and then a colon, then print line, and then a comma, and then end equals, and then simply quotes. And you're going to want to leave those quotes empty, by the way. And then we're just going to type f.close and then a pair of empty parentheses. So if we've written that and we run this, we're going to get all 4 of our text lines. And if you had written more, you would get all of them in the exact way that you wrote it inside there. And the reason for this is because the for loop is looping through the text file line by line. So it first goes through here, then through here, then through here, then through here, and it does that in a process that simply repeats going through each line. So it first goes through the first line, then the second line, and the third line, and it would go on and on depending on however many lines you have in the file. And that is really how Python and Python interpreter will always go through any type of file that you use as an external file instead of just using the input statement. And this is very efficient, by the way. You could use however much space you wanted, and if some files that are just too big, you can also load them onto an external hard drive. And when you do that, it can allow you to process considerably more considerably more files in considerably shorter time. And again, it depends on your computer. The faster your computer is, the more GPU it has, the faster things are going to work. So yes, if this does take some time, then that probably means that your computer is pretty slow, because this is a relatively short file. Again, only 99 bytes. And yeah, that's really it for this section. So now we're going to move on to writing inside or writing to a text file. Now that we've learned how to open and read a file, let's try writing to it. So to do that, we're going to use the A or append mode. You can also use the W or writing mode, but you'll erase all previous content in the file if the file already exists, which in this case, the file already does exist. So let's try a program. Go ahead and type F equals, and then open a pair of parentheses, and then a pair of single quotes, and then myfile.txt, then a comma, and then just the letter A, which is going to be our appending. Which if you do remember, we previously put R because we were only trying to read it, but now that we're actually trying to edit it, and in this case append it, we're going to use the A. So now we're going to do f.write, and then another pair of parentheses, and then a pair of single quotes, and inside it we're actually going to use one of our escape characters, \n, which of course is going to take us down a line, and we're going to put this sentence will be appended, because that is exactly what's going to happen to it. Okay, and then skip a line, or rather go down a line, and then type f.write, and then a pair of single quotes, \n once again, and then start learning Python today. Okay, and then on your last line, we're just going to type f.close, and then an empty pair of parentheses. Okay, so let's run our program now. And okay, so this time, because we've actually appended, or in this case edited, our file, which also, of course, editing counts as writing or appending, and in this case we did append, and so we're not actually going to see any effects directly at the moment that we run the program. To see our actual effects, we're going to have to go to the text file. So go ahead and launch your Finder, or whatever it is, File Explorer, whatever it is here, and go to your desktop, and then go ahead and open your myfile.txt. And as you can see here, we have indeed gotten our results. In this case, we have this sentence will be appended and start learning Python today. And this has worked exactly as expected. So let me go ahead and explain how we did this. So in this situation, we used the write function to append the two sentences. This sentence will be appended and start learning Python today. And because we did use that escape character \n, we get everything on a new line. So that is also very helpful, and you can also use however many lines you want. If you added another line, that would still add. And by the way, if we did run this program again, so go ahead and run this program again, and if we try to open our desktop and open our file again, we're actually going to have it open twice, because now that we ran it twice, our program automatically shows both of the times that it's been appended. And these are irreversible changes. So say you go, oh no, I wish I didn't do that, there's not really a way to change it unless you go to the text file itself. So definitely be careful before you do append or edit any type of text file, or any file, matter of fact, in any way. Moving on, we're going to learn how to open and read text files by their buffer size. Sometimes we may want to read a file by buffer size so that our program does not use excessive memory resources. To do that, we can use the read function as opposed to the readline function, which allows us to specify the buffer size that we want. So let's try a program. Go ahead and type input file equals open, and then go ahead and put a pair of parentheses, and then a pair of single quotes, and inside it, myfile.txt. And then a comma, followed by R, which is going to be our reading mode. And then we're going to put output file equals open, and then a pair of parentheses, and then quotes, and my output file .txt, and then a comma, and then W for writing mode. Then we're going to put msg, which is going to be a variable, input file dot read, and then a pair of parentheses, and inside it 10. Then we're going to put while len, and then a pair of parentheses, and inside it our variable msg, and then a colon, and then down a line, but still inside the while loop, output file dot write, pair of parentheses, msg, and then down a line, msg equals input file dot read, and then pair of parentheses, and inside it 10. Then we're going to go out of the while loop and put input file dot close, and the pair of parentheses, and then down, and then the same for output file dot close, and an empty pair of parentheses. Okay, now what's about to happen is going to absolutely blow your mind. Go ahead and run this program, and then go ahead and check out your desktop. If you look, you'll see your regular myfile.txt, but along with it, you'll also see another file, which is myoutputfile.txt. If you open it, you'll notice that it's an exact copy of your myfile.txt. And that, if your mind is not already just blown away by the capabilities of Python, I don't know what to tell you. And there is so much more to come after this, but now you have already started using the AI capabilities of Python, and you've already started, in this case, you already replicated a file using Python, and that is a really big achievement. So congratulations on duplicating your first file using Python, and notice how this is called myoutputfile.txt. We specified that actually right about here, and if we rename this to, let's just say, myfile2.txt and run this program, and we go back, we'll also see myfile2.txt, and that too is a exact copy of myfile.txt, and the capabilities here are just endless. But let's explain in more detail what's going on here. So in this case, we first open two files, the input file.txt and the output file.txt, files for reading and writing respectively. Then we use the statement msg equals input file.read10 and a while loop to loop through the file's 10 bytes at a time. And the value 10 in the parentheses tells the read function to only read 10 bytes. So if our file was like petabytes, or, not even, to forget petabytes, those are too big, even just a few gigabytes or terabytes, this would be completely unrealistic. And we'd probably put a number closer to, up to maybe even a million. And the value, again, is telling the read function to only read 10 bytes. Each number added there is going to be 1 byte more. And the while condition in while len msg checks the length of the variable msg. As long as the length is not 0, the loop will run. Within the while loop, the statement output file.write msg writes the message to the output file. After writing the message, the statement msg equals input file.read10 reads the next 10 bytes and keeps doing it until the entire file, which in this case is 220 bytes, is completely read. Now, when that does happen, the program closes both of these files. When you run the program, a new file, myoutputfile.txt, will be created. When you open the file, you'll notice that it has the same content as your input file, myfile.txt. To prove that only 10 bytes is read at a time, you could, in theory, change the line output file.write msg in the program to output file.write msg plus, and then our escape character \n in quotes. So if we run this program again, my output file would come out containing lines with at most 10 characters. So let's actually try this. So now let's go ahead and change the line output file.write msg to output file.write msg plus, and then quotes in our escape character \n. So let's now run this, and we're actually going to need to change this. So let's just change it to my file. Well, let's just put 3 and run this. And now if we go and open my file 3, it's gonna come with only 10 characters. And this is just, yes, you could change this to however much you want and it would affect your actual, and you can actually see that this affects your file size. It makes this file 22 bytes larger. And if again, the possibilities are just endless. You can play around with this if you want. But that is where we're going to finish this segment of opening and reading text files by buffer size, and we are going to move on to opening, reading, and writing binary files. Binary files refer to any file that contains non-text, such as image or video. To work with binary files, we simply use the RB or WB mode. So go ahead and get a JPEG or JPG file and put it onto your desktop. In the practically impossible scenario that you have no JPG or JPEG file on hand, I have linked one for you to download in the description below. So go ahead and put that on your desktop and rename it to myimage.jpg. As you can see here, I have a file and I have a JPG file, and I have renamed it to myimage.jpg. And now what we're going to do is actually just replace a few things. We don't have to replace that much. So first, it says myfile.txt here. We're going to change this to myimage.jpg. And then this R is going to turn into RB. Now R would of course mean reading, and we're changing this to reading binary. And here, go ahead and change this to my output file .jpg. And this W is going to change to WB, meaning it's moving from writing to writing binary. And the last thing we need to change is just, if you remember, we were testing this out over here with the output file.write. You can go ahead and take this out, and it'll just say MSG. So let's run this now. And now that it's complete, if you go check your desktop, you will have an exact copy of your myimage.jpg as my output file.jpg. Can you wrap your head around the possibilities you can have with Python? It's just mind-blowing. And just to prove that this is absolutely legitimate, if you go here and change this from JPG to another popular image extension, which is PNG, and run this program, you will actually have an exact copy as a .png file. And this goes with all image file types. If I change this to another popular type, which is TIFF, and ran this program, I would have a .tiff file as an exact copy of what I had with the JPG file. It's mind-blowing. If I change this to SVG, which is a vector type file, I would still have it right here. Now, due to the fact that I am on macOS and I have no default application to open SVG files, you will notice, and you can see here, I cannot open the SVG file, but if you do have an external program, you will be able to do it. Now, I mean, you can really change this to whatever you want, and it'll almost certainly work as long as Python has the capability of operating it. And again, this all ties hand in hand with the unbelievable possibilities that Python has. And that wraps it up, actually. Very short section for opening, reading, and writing binary files. And again, this doesn't only apply for this type of file. We can also, if we had a large file like a video that's about 3 to 4 minutes long, we'd probably have to change it from only 10 bytes a second to something larger. But this is just, I mean, I hope you are understanding the unbelievable possibilities that Python here contains. So let's go ahead and move on to deleting and renaming files, which is going to be our last segment. Two other useful functions we need to learn when working with files are the remove and rename functions. These functions are available in the OS module, and we do have to import them before they're actually usable. So let's first import the OS module. If you do remember, we'd learned that in lesson 8. So go ahead and just type import OS, and that is the simple way to import modules as I showed you in lesson 8. And then I want you to actually call on the function. So if we just put remove, and by the way, the syntax would be remove and then single quotes and then whatever file you wanted to. So like if you wanted to say here, if you wanted to remove, you know, my output file.svg, we'd put my output file .svg, and we run this. Now notice that this is not going to work, and the reason for this is, as I showed you in lesson 8, when you import a module, to use an imported function, you must use the OS or whatever module you imported and then a dot. So you would put it like this. And now if we run this program, then notice how everything works fine. And if we go here, we'll notice that my output file.svg no longer exists. So let's repeat the same process with my file.txt. So put my file.txt and watch the magic. We run this, absolutely gone. It's nowhere to be found. So if you do want to recover this and you went in the trash, you would actually notice that it's no longer there. And so you do have to be careful when you are using this, because once you delete it, it is gone. You are not going to get it back. So yes, definitely be very, very careful on what you do and when you do it. So now we're going to talk about renaming it. So renaming is pretty much the same thing. So here though we have to put two names. So let's just say that we want to rename my image.jpg. We just change this to rename, and then we'd have my image.jpg, and then a comma, and then our new name. So let's just say we wanted to name it my real image.jpg, and then if we run this and go back, we will see that it has been renamed. So that is where we're going to finish here. And again, remember, the possibilities with this are endless. I mean, you can really play around with this. You can see the endless possibilities and the incredibly large amount of ways you can deal with this and, do different things. And I would recommend that, maybe for an hour or two, you can play around with all these functions and everything we learned about today. Maybe watch this video twice due to how important it is. And really, definitely make sure that you are practicing Python for at least, however much you can a day, but at least 1 hour a day would be good, especially when you're a beginner. Remember that in the end, it all comes down to how much effort you're willing to put in and how much effort you actually do put in. It is a lot easier to just say that I'm going to learn Python for an hour a day and then, only do it for a minute a day or a few minutes a day and then say, oh, I need to eat, oh, I need to do this, oh, I need to do that. But try your best to do at least, an hour a day and maintain a schedule that's good for you. Now, if you do miss your Python practice on one day, it's not going to kill you, but you do need to try to be as consistent as possible. And if you do, Python will be an easy language for you to learn, because Python is an easy language to learn as long as you are willing to put a little bit of effort in. Now remember that the more effort that you do put in, the better you're going to learn Python. And when I say better, I'm referring to speed and accuracy. So thank you for watching this video, and please do go watch my next lessons or a special edition. But until then, see you.